Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by the caption of the video today, we're going to be doing Aura nails. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but we're going to be doing this on a fill-in, by the way. So before we get into the tutorial, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I am doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, so make sure that you are a part of that by liking and subscribing. So of course I always start by pushing my client's cuticles back. Now since this is a fill-in, I'm going to go ahead and go in and remove all of the polish and top coat we did from the last set. This was like a reflective glitter type of design, and I did a tutorial on this which is actually on my page, but from one of the comments I'm going to assume that you couldn't really tell or like notice that on camera versus like in person you could really get that effect. So I might try to do another one of those tutorials, but maybe record it with my camera instead, or I'm not sure, just maybe to show like a better outcome of the design. But this step is super simple, and I am using a coarse drill bit that I got off of Amazon. Now I will say, when you're using this, start at a low speed and work your way up if needed, but definitely start slow, because one wrong move or nick and this will, it does this little thing. I don't know if it's ever happened to y'all, but like, it kind of like almost gets stuck on something type of thing, and then it causes it to like fling around the entire finger. Yeah, that's not comfortable. I've gotten myself so many times that way, and I always just turn the drill down a little bit and then everything is fine. But obviously you can't work too low, because then you won't get the polish off as time efficiently as you could with it turned up just a little bit higher. So you definitely just want to, like I said, start low and then work your way up. That way you can get the polish off, in a quicker manner, I guess. But still be safe. You don't want to cut your client. Definitely don't want to burn them, or, file too hard and give them the red ring. If you don't know what the red ring is, definitely do your research, because I have so many clients that have come to me from like other nail techs or definitely the salon, and they have the red ring, and that's basically from the drill being drilled into their finger, like their actual nail bed, and causing the red ring. Yeah, we don't want that. So now I'm going in with my cuticle drill bit, and this is a super simple step, but it is very important. So I just take it across the entire cuticle area, make sure that to getting into everything really good, because this is what will expose the entire nail and just get all of that dead skin, any excess nail, anything that needs to come out from under there, this will get. And that is important because it will allow us to work with a clean base when we're doing the fill-in, which will help with preventing lifting and helping your retention rate. So now I'm going in with a 180 sanding band, and I'm just filing around the entire natural nail, all of the new growth, making sure to take all of that natural shine off. This is really important because the natural shine comes from the natural oils that our nails produce, and that will prevent the acrylic from adhering to the nail properly, and definitely will for sure cause lifting. So whether it's a full set or a fill-in, you want to make sure that anytime you are doing nails, that you always remove all of the natural shine from any part of the nail. And now I'm going in with my nail prep. This is Mia Secret Dehydrator, and this is just basically another layer of getting rid of those natural oils. This is a dehydrator, so it just dehydrates the nails. Super important step. This is Mia Secret Extra Bond. Now sometimes I jump back and forth between this and Young Nails Primer, but they essentially do the same thing, and this is just what will help the acrylic adhere to the nails properly. And it's totally optional, but I do 2 layers of that, regardless of if I use that or the Young Nails, just to throw that out there. And so now we're going to go ahead and get into the acrylic. So we are only going to be needing 1 bead for this fill-in. Now granted, I'm not saying that as if that's all you can use, but as you can see, she has just enough new growth to only really need that 1 bead. So you're going to start by placing it right underneath the cuticle. Notice how I said right underneath, not at or on top of. And I say that because as you feather the acrylic down, it will push up just a little bit, and it will kind of fall into place. So you don't want to place it right at the cuticle or right above, because it will push up into the cuticle, causing it to flood and go over the skin, and that will definitely 100% cause lifting. You never ever want any of the acrylic to be past the cuticle, on the surrounding skin. You want it to be on the nail and the nail only. Like, the goal here is for everything to look nice and flush with the client's cuticle. So obviously, if the acrylic is not just on the client's nail, it will not only give it a, messy look, but the nails are not going to last. So just keep that in mind. And if this is something you struggle with, definitely just practice. I would say start by placing it even lower than what I mentioned previously, how I said place it right underneath your cuticle. Yeah, place it even lower than that. That way you can kind of get a feel for, how big your beads are, and the beads that you use, they usually how far they usually push up when you apply the acrylic, XYZ. And you can always add more if needed, but I've been doing this for quite a while, so the one bead works pretty well for me. And she doesn't need any repairs on this hand anyways, so that's another reason why we're only going to be using the one bead. Now, another thing I want to mention is make sure that when you are applying these one beads, although it is very simple because it's only one bead, you want to make sure that you're still bringing the whole bead of acrylic down. You don't want to leave any lumps or bumps, or just feather it out just enough to where it's no longer a big bead. You want to make sure, as you can see here, I'm bringing it all the way down to the bottom of the nail, or at least feathering the entire bead down. I'm not leaving anything, the thicker side. I'm not just placing the cuticle bead and feathering it, just to have it a little bit more flat. I'm making sure to place it and feather all the way down so it can be nice and flat. And I am, as always, making sure to wipe around my client's cuticle area, making sure that just in case if any acrylic happens to get over there, that it is off and clean. So I wanted to mention that as well. If you do have a problem where you get flooding, you get acrylic on the client's skin, you placed it too close to the cuticle, now it's on the cuticle, you do have to move fast in this instance, but when that happens anyways. But make sure that you just wipe around the cuticle area, and that will make sure to keep everything nice and clean and get rid of any acrylic while it's still wet. Once it dries, then it's a different ball game. But as long as it's wet, wiping around the cuticle area will help clean it up. If not, totally. I mean, I've never seen an instance where somebody, wiped around the cuticle area and they left acrylic, unless they just, like, you'll see if it's there. So you'll know if you need to wipe again, where you need to wipe, X, Y, and Z. And also, as I feather it down, you can see I'm not using too much pressure at all. And that's a good thing because I'm leaving most of the product on the nail. So when doing a full set or a fill-in, you don't want to waste your product at all. So just keep that in mind when you're placing your beads, that you want to just work lightly and just feather the beads downward, because again, applying too much pressure will not only cause you to be wiping off most of your product, which is just a waste of time and money, but it will start to get clogged in your brush. So as you can see, each time I am working with the bead, I place it, and then I do, I manipulate it to where I kind of want to start off with it at, and then I'm constantly dipping my brush, wiping my brush off and then dipping it back in the monomer, wiping my brush off, dipping it back in the monomer. And that's just super important. Anytime you see me tapping that paper towel, it's just me cleaning off any acrylic that may have gotten on my brush, and which is really usually not any, but literally the slightest bit of acrylic can cause issues in your brush. And even if it's not necessarily a lot of acrylic staying in, it can build up little by little. And so that is why, as I'm wiping it completely off on my paper towel, I'm then dipping it back in the monomer to get it, back a little moist, to go ahead and work with the acrylic again. And the reason I'm emphasizing making sure that it's clean on the, cleaning my brush on the paper towel, is because this probably will happen 1,000,001 times, no matter how good you are, but you don't want your monomer to get contaminated. You don't want any acrylic at all whatsoever to get into your monomer, only because it will start to affect your application. You're going to be dipping it in there to pick up, the bead for the next nail or whatever, and it's going to start to apply weird. It's going to be applying clumpy. It's just you'll definitely know something is up with my monitor. So just make sure that you're wiping your brush very frequently, keeping it nice and clean. And this is optional as well, but one thing I always do after I'm done with the acrylic process, I do leave my brush in acetone for 5 minutes. That is optional. Some people don't recommend it. I've been doing it ever since I've started doing nails, and it's been fine. I dip it in acetone for 5 minutes, and depending on the set, this wasn't. I can kind of tell if it got messy or if it didn't. If it got really messy, then it's the full five. But something like this, where I didn't really have much acrylic, many acrylic issues, I just left it in for probably about 2 minutes, and then of course I dry it off on a paper towel to make sure that it's nice and clean, and then I do moisturize it again by dipping it back in my monomer, and then I form it, flatten it out, get it ready for the next client, and then I put it away. And that keeps my brush clean and free of buildup, because it sucks when you think your brush is clean and then you get back to your next client and you try to start applying the acrylic and you have so much acrylic dried up in your brush, or you have a ball of acrylic in there, that it's just such a hassle, y'all. So you might as well just work smarter and not harder, because it's definitely easier to do it that way. So now, since this was just a fill-in, we don't have much shaping to do, but of course, it's a fill-in, so we do got to bring that shape back. I think she had these on for 3 weeks, maybe even 4, honestly, but it was definitely longer than the 2. So we do got some revamping we need to do, but only slight. So I'm taking the file and I'm just filing the sides of the nails straight up and down at a 90-degree angle. You want to make sure to cool. You want to make sure to pull your client's skin back, because these files do get sharp. I'm using an 80 grit file, and that is the sharpest, I believe. So you definitely, it can get you a crisp look, but you want to be really, really careful, because it can get you a crisp cut as well. So you want to be careful with that. But you want to make sure, like I said, to keep the file flat up against the client's nail. And then when you're filing the free edge, you want to make sure that you're doing the same thing. File straight up against the free edge of the nail and filing it straight up and down at a 90-degree angle. Now, as you can see here, and on any of the sides of the nails, I'm kind of taking a slanted file. I said that's so weird. What? I'm kind of taking the file and filing at a slanted angle when I'm going on the undersides of the nails. And that is something that is just super brief and quick, but you do want to make sure that you do, because sometimes when applying acrylic, especially when doing a fill-in, as you've seen, I was wiping like the sides of the nails as well as the free edge to like really keep that shape. But sometimes that can cause acrylic to be on the undersides of the nail, and especially with the fill-in, it's been a long time since you filed them, so sometimes the bottoms of the nails can get rigid, they can be super dull. So that is why I do that. I just simply swipe the undersides of the sides of the nails, and that just gets everything nice and clean and back straight and even underneath there. And that's super important, because although you might think that nobody's even seeing that, it's definitely visible. You're definitely going to see it if it looks funky under there. So just keep that in mind. And now I'm just taking that same file and I'm filing over the entire nail except for the cuticle area, which we will get to that next. This is totally optional. You can just use your e-file if you want. I started doing this not too long ago, and I really, really love it. I feel like it just, one, saves time, because I don't usually have to file the entire nail with the e-file anymore. But I feel like it gives me such a more clean base. Like when I go to do my design or put my top coat on, whatever, I feel like everything just applies so much more like flowy, like smoothly. I don't know, smoother. I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm saying, but I basically just feel like with the e-file, yes, it gets everything nice and clean and like neat and smooth, but this like really does. And it's optional. You can use your e-file and still do it that way. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but, and y'all know I say this in every video, make sure to turn your client's hand and look at it from different angles, because sometimes after staring at the set for too long, especially if you're doing multiple clients in a day, everything can just start to look even after your first time doing it. So definitely flip your client's hand multiple times throughout the set and see if you need to file anymore in one spot, if one nail looks lumpy, whatever the case may be. And that is it makes it so much easier to spot flaws that need to be fixed when you are looking at it from different angles. And so now I'm taking my fine drill bit and I am just filing around the cuticle area. So this is super important because one, this is where we seal the cuticles. So as you can see, I'm filing the entire cuticle area from left to right, and I'm just making sure to seal that. By sealing it, I just mean to make sure that the acrylic is nice and flat, nice and flush with the client's cuticle. You don't want it to be super bulky. You don't want there to be any gaps, any imperfections, because again, we want it to look nice and flush. That way when the client's nail grows out, it's still right where it needs to be. We won't have any lifting, we won't have any popping off. Everything looks nice and neat, and she can go 2 weeks or whatever without them looking super bad. I'm also taking my e-file and going underneath the free edge of the nail, and this is just because, as y'all seen when I was applying the acrylic, I do flatten the brush up against the edge to help keep that shape. So sometimes acrylic can get stuck under there as well, or just give it a wonky look. So I feel like using that file just cleans it up and gives it a nice sharp look. And I am, in this instance, since I did do a fill-in, so acrylic did touch the rest of the nail, like new acrylic touched old acrylic is what I'm trying to say basically. I did go ahead and, after filing the cuticle area, I just ran the drill bit over the entire nail just to make sure it was nice and smooth. Now the reason I said new acrylic touch old, not that that can't happen, but if I'm doing a full set, obviously 9 times out of 10, once I file with the hand file, everything is like uniform because of the application. Now sometimes with a fill-in, obviously the acrylic doesn't always blend as well as it would with a full set. So I just like to do that with fill-ins to make sure that where the new acrylic and the old acrylic kind of like meet, it's nice and uniform. You can't even tell that it's a fill-in, if that makes sense. Now that's optional. You don't have to do that. Like I said, you can just use the e-file on the whole nail, or you can do it how you see me do it prior. Use the hand file for the nail and the drill bit for the cuticle area, but it's totally up to you. And now I'm going in with my buffer. This is a super quick step. You just want to buff the entire nail, top to bottom, left to right. And this is super, super important because it will get any imperfections off of the nail that may have, come from using that e-file. Any scratches, any marks, I guess. I'm not really sure. It's weird always explaining this, but it basically buffs the nail and gives you a nice, smooth base to work with. And so I don't film this next part, but I always apply cuticle area to my clients' cuticles and underneath their nails. And this just helps because when they go and wash them before doing the design, it gives us a nice clean, like not only for the nails, but I get all of that dust, any acrylic, anything, any product that was on her skin, we are getting off. And now I'm going to go in with, this is from D&D. I forget the color. I want to say it's like mulberry maybe, but if you want to know, comment down below. Y'all know I'll get that for you. But we're going to do 2 coats of this. Obviously this is gel, but with the aura design, if you guys have been seeing them, it's basically like when the nail's one color, but then the center kind of has another color like blooming out. Now there are so many ways to do this, so if you guys want to see like the other ways that you can accomplish this, just comment down below and I'll try to do those, because I see people do it with acrylic, people do it with the airbrush like we're doing today, people do it with eyeshadow, pigment powder, blooming gel. Like I've literally seen so many ways to do it, and I think that the reason that has become a thing to do it many different ways now is because the airbrush way is highly not recommended. As you can assume, that's a lot of product getting sprayed around right in our faces, and breathing that in is not the best thing to do. Just all of that getting right in your face, so it's highly not recommended. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, and I feel like as long as you're taking the right precautions and steps to do the set, then that's all that matters. When I do this with my clients, I have fans going right in front of us to get all of that away from us as much as possible anyways. And then I do use my airbrush on a very low setting, so it's not spraying out as much as it would be if I had it on a high setting. So I just try to do a lot a lot of what I can to try and prevent any of that product getting right in our faces. But It really just depends on what color combo I'm doing as to what method I'm using. If I can use a different method, I will, but in this case, we could not. So I do apply 2 coats of this. I apply 1 coat, cure for 60 seconds, and then I apply another coat and cure for 60 seconds. And my biggest tip with applying polish, this is actually something that a lot of people struggle with as a beginner, which is not crazy actually, but you just want to take your time and move slow. As you can see, I'm starting at the cuticle part of it, and I'm making sure to flatten my brush out to really get a lot of that coverage. And once I take it up to the entire cuticle area and that's covered, I then just, bring it down and cover the rest of the nail as well as the sides and the free edge, y'all. When I was a beginner, that's something that I always forgot about. The sides of the nails used to be colorless and the free edge. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that and covering the entire nail. And now I'm just wiping like the sides of the nail and the free edge. And I don't wipe literally the sides, but kind of add a like underneath the sides of the nail motion, just to keep that shape. And so now I'm going in with my airbrush, and I'm using this at a low setting, and I'm just spraying in small circular motions. You do want to make sure that before you go right onto the nail that you like the color, and you can do this by just spraying it on paper towel. Now the way I achieve this color, I just picked the pink that we wanted to do, and you do have to kind of like eyeball the ratio and kind of get used to that. But in this case, I always just work little by little. I don't like to just go in full blown whole bunch of polish, whole bunch of acetone, and just see what we come out with, because then that's when you start getting bubbles in your design. You start getting the polish clogged in your airbrush. It's just a mess. So I always work little by little. So I usually take my polish and just put like a few drops in there or like a few wipes, and then I pour just enough acetone to mix it. And like I said, I always test it out on a paper towel first. If I like the color, then I go for it. So I do like to keep a paper towel underneath the client's finger, and this is just so it doesn't get super messy, and it'll catch most of the, product that's coming out that it's not getting on the nail. And so like I said, you want to just kind of do it in small circular motions to get that aura effect. You do want to make sure that you are not super close to the nail. So if you feel like your design is coming out very watery, if you're getting like little bubbles on the nail, that is because you are too close, or you have too much product coming out, or your ratio from polish to acetone is not right. So anyways, this is the outcome. We let that cure, and then we put gel top coat on and cure that. And yeah, they're so beautiful. Like, this is such a perfect design for Valentine's Day. Super simple and cute. I really love the way they turned out. I hope y'all do too. Thank you for watching the tutorial and supporting. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe for that giveaway. And I love y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one.